Alright guys, welcome to our first official video of 6th grade. We're starting our first unit today. It's going to be on collecting and analyzing data. So today we're going to go over basically what data is and how to ask the right kinds of questions to collect good data. Understand the definition of data and differentiate between statistical and non-statistical questions today. So by the end of the video, you should know what data is and be able to tell the difference, that's what differentiate means, between statistical and non-statistical questions. So while you're watching this video, I want you to kind of have in your brain this question: what would make a question a statistical question as opposed to non-statistical? By the end of the video, you should be able to answer that. So first of all, data, and you should write this down on your notes, is factual information that is collected about people or things. So an example of that would be this chart here. I have all the rainfall in different regions of the world over the course of a year, and they're in millimeters. So just based on this data collection, we can see that deserts get much less rainfall than the wet tropics do. And that's what data is. It's just factual information. A lot of times it's presented in numbers, but it can be any facts that people collect. How do we get data? So before we can do anything with our data, like analyze it to see what it tells us, we have to actually gather it. When we collect data, we make observations or we ask people questions. And today, for the rest of this, we're going to be talking about how to get data from asking people the right kinds of questions. So, a statistical question, and this is something you should write down, is a question that asks about a set of data that can vary. So when I say vary, it just means that something can change. So examples would be like the heights of people in our class. The answer to that question is going to change based on the person you ask. The height of the tallest person in each 6th grade group. So in the orcas, the stingrays, the dolphins, the squids, and the, what am I missing? Oh, the sharks. Who's the tallest person in each group? Or how tall is the tallest person in each group? That answer is going to vary depending on the group. And then the age of the teachers that live for life. It depends on the teacher you're asking. When you're deciding whether a question is statistical, I want you to write this down. I want you to keep the letters MVP, like the most valuable player for a baseball or a football or basketball team, into your brain. But in math, for our class, they stand for measurable, variety, and population. And we'll go over what all of those mean. But basically, every statistical question has to meet these three things. MVP, it has to be measurable, it has to have variety, and it has to address a population. So basically what measured means, or measurable, that M, it means the answer can always be written as a number. The variety, it just means that there's different answers depending on who you ask. Variety just means that the answers can change. The answers can change. So variety and change, measurable and numbers. That's what you're remembering. Measurable numbers, variety, change. And then they only apply to the population that's answering the question. A population is just a group of people or things that have something in common. Like basically you wouldn't ask 8th graders how tall the people in our 6th grade class are because that question doesn't really apply to them. Population's a pretty easy one to take care of. So measurable. Can these questions be measured? I want you to take a couple minutes and try to figure out which ones of these questions can be measured. And then I'll let you know here in a minute. Remember, measurable means the answer has to be a number. Okay, so where is Baton Rouge, Louisiana? You wouldn't say 7 to that question, so that one cannot be measured. How old is the oldest member of a household? That one can be measured because the answer is a number. 17, 16, 45. Who was the 16th president of the United States? That one cannot be measured. The answer is Abraham Lincoln, not a number. You wouldn't say who was the 16th president of the United States? 11. Okay, even though there's a number in the question, the answer has to be a number for it to be measurable. And how many times does a 6th grader eat on average every day? 3, 4, 5. Those are numbers, so that works. Variety just means that the questions can have different answers for different people. So what was the score of my volleyball game last night? Well, we won, so it was 21-6. That's not a question that has variety. Okay, that's a fact. We won 21-6. So there's no variety there. You wouldn't say, hey, what was Ms. Eider's volleyball game, but the score of Ms. Eider's volleyball game, and have one person say 7 and the other person say 12. Okay, there's just one score, so that answer can't ever change. But how far do the teachers at Live for Life drive to school every day? Well, that one can change. Some people might drive 6 miles, some people might drive 2. Okay, so that's variety. I want you to pause the video and try to figure out if the next 2 questions have variety in the answers. All right, so how many pets does Ms. Zeider have? That answer is 2, and that answer won't change depending on who you ask. The fact is that the answer is 2, so that question does not have variety. How many pets do the 6th graders at Live for Life have? Well, it depends on which 6th grader you ask. Some might have 0 and some might have 9 pets. So that question does have variety. Basically, statistical questions address the varieties of a population, the way that one population changes. So a population is just a group of people or things that has something in common. Okay, a population could be like all the 6th graders at Live for Life. Well, everyone in that population is a 6th grader and they go to Live for Life. It could be all the women in America. People in that are all women and all American. Okay, so when you practice these, you have to think to yourself, okay, is the answer to this question a number? Is it measurable? Is this answer going to change depending on who's answering it? And are we talking about a population? So I want you to try to figure out which of these questions would be a statistical question, pause the video, and then check your answers. All right, so how many cats does Ms. Zeider own? That is not a statistical question because there's only one answer. The answer never changes. What size shoes do the 6th graders at Live for Life wear? That is a statistical question. The answer is a number, and it will change depending on which 6th grader you ask. Where is my pen? That answer isn't a number. You wouldn't say, where's my pen? 7. So that's not a statistical question. How do sharks breathe underwater? Again, not a number for your answer, so not a statistical question. And how many innings did each of the pitchers in Major League Baseball pitch last night? Definitely a statistical question. The answer is a number. And then there's going to be a different number of innings for each pitcher depending on the pitcher. Okay, so that's it. I hope you guys wrote some things down. Show me your notes, and your password is going to be word wall. That's the first thing I saw in my classroom. I will see you guys in class in a little bit, and have a great night.